Again, good morning and welcome. Thank you all for adjusting your schedules to be here to have this, important topic to talk about so we can all be on the same page and get the same information. I ask that you all stay muted during our presentations. If you have a question that you want to raise at the end, just use your raise hand and we'll call on you or we'll work down the queue. We all know Zoom, we've all done these meetings, so normal Zoom etiquette will be in place. Just remember, we are a professional organization. We're all professionals. Let's keep it about the issues. At the end of the meeting, some of you have asked me, and the officers talked about that too. At the end of the meeting, once we have the presentations and all that information, we'll ask California and the ADA to leave, and if everybody can stay on for a minute, and we'll just chat, and we'll go from there. Are there any questions, or the officers want to add anything else? All right. Seeing none. Peter, really appreciate you taking the time to share some of the information about what's going on in California and your resolution. And I'll turn it over to you to present. If you want to share anything, you should have permission to screen share. Feel free. But otherwise, we'll let you go and go from there. You're muted.
Well, I want to start by thanking you, Greg, and the ASCDE Executive Committee for organizing this information session today, and all of you for taking the time to attend. I've got some prepared remarks that I'd like to share with you. And after that, as Greg mentioned, whenever it's appropriate, I'm happy to take questions. The CDA Board of Directors is where we're meeting today, and our president would have liked to have joined us today, as it is important to him and all of us at CDA that this recommendation is coming from our full board, and that they want to speak to what we've been evaluating and what we intend to take forward to the CDA House in November. However, since Dr. Shepley was not available to attend, Dr. Blake was asked not to join us, but he and the rest of our board are available to your leadership at any time for their questions. Change is often not easy. For constructive change to occur, we must be open to new ideas and perspectives. We must foster an environment that welcomes analysis and the thoughtful proposals that flow from such analysis. That is the genesis of the work CDA did to get to this proposal, and the spirit in which I hope our conversation will unfold today. I deeply appreciate the experience of camaraderie and open dialogue among all of us, and invite conversation. The CDA board is proposing that to be a member of CDA and one of California's 32 component dental societies, the member does not need to be a member of ADA. And ADA would direct bill California dentists for membership in the ADA. We are not proposing to dissolve the tripartite. I will talk about that fundamental distinction in a bit. We opened the conversation with ADA leadership team 2 weeks ago, both through management and board engagement, out of respect for our relationship and a desire to ensure they heard our intent from us directly, not through rumor mill, and with an opportunity to discuss and collaborate on how we operationalize this optional membership proposal and formulate a new way of working together in service of dentists and the profession. Ray and I have had several productive exchanges about that cooperation, and as recently as yesterday, we agreed that everyone will be best served by participating in a respectful dialogue as we move forward. I started connecting with a handful of you over the past 10 days as well. Those connections were for the same reason. So you heard about CDA's intent directly and knew there was an open door to discuss any questions that come your way. Our board members have been hearing rumors that I have been recruiting other states to follow our lead. I hope those I spoke with would confirm our conversation was not in that vein. In fact, much of our analysis reveals why our reasons in California are somewhat unique to the characteristics of California. Our board is just beginning to socialize this concept with our state, starting with an information session and discussion with our component leadership body this week. We're actively seeking their input over the next couple of months, which will ultimately shape the final language that we will take forward to our House for consideration. All of that to say, we are very early in the process and want to set the expectation that refinement may happen as we continue to socialize and discuss. With that, let me start from the beginning. In March of 2022, the CDA board formed what we called the Future Forecasting Work Group to support its strategic planning responsibility. That work group was comprised of leaders from across the CDA organization to address a challenge statement that included 3 interrelated priorities. First, prioritize how we deliver value that meets members' needs and preserves membership. Second, prepare the organization to meet the needs of a future state of the profession that is likely to be organized, financed, and delivering care differently than today. And third, create a long-term sustainable financial model. I'm certain that many, if not all of you, are looking at a similar set of priorities with your boards. Last month, the work group presented a set of recommendations to the CDA board to address several of its findings, one of which is related to the membership model. Specifically, the board took action on a recommendation to shape a proposal for the CDA House of Delegates that would introduce member choice by making ADA membership optional and billed directly by the ADA starting January 1, 2025. At the time of the board's action, we intentionally did not have resolving clauses and bylaws modifications, as we recognize the magnitude of this proposal and wanted to be sure we built in adequate time for discussion and collaboration to land on specific language and timing that is sound operationally and inclusive of our local component perspective, as well as the ADA, which, as I noted earlier, we will be gathering over the summer. Our exploration was extensive, and it included evaluation of our periodic member research conducted in 2021, our current membership trends, and a review of trends in the professional landscape. We also spent time reviewing how membership models have evolved in other professions across the association landscape. We didn't go into this exploration with an end in mind. Rather, we used what we learned to put a spectrum of options on the table and evaluated them against each other. From the beginning, our leadership was openly uncomfortable with anything that would be a departure from the tripartite. Our conversations always acknowledged our firm belief that strength at the national, state, and local levels all positively impact the profession. What our leaders ultimately spent significant time discussing and evaluating is the importance of membership being available only as a bundled offering. Through conversations with Ray and the consultancy group hired to look at ADA values specific for large groups and DSOs, we know that organized medicine has been held up as a success story. And we too looked at that model and the relevancy that the AMA has been able to sustain in a tripartite model that provides value to the profession overall without relying on a member-based model to do so. Organized medicine is a voluntary tripartite model that provides state representation and with an optional membership structure. In January, Ray came to California and met with me and some of my team, including the lead partner of our external member research firm, to share our research findings. We had the chance to discuss some of the parallels in the work ADA is doing on membership models, including a membership offering for DSOs. This conversation was among many productive conversations we've had. The CDA proposal is for optional ADA membership in a tripartite structure, not disaffiliation with the ADA. What we are discussing reflects our ongoing commitment to the strength of California's state and local value proposition and does not erode what ADA does for the profession, much of which is funded from revenue streams other than dues. And most, if not all, ADA offerings to members are available to non-members for a fee. We firmly believe that if ADA continues in a well-priced, dues-based structure and provides unique value for the cost, it will be able to grow membership. As many of you know, California does not utilize most of the infrastructure elements that ADA provides constituents, particularly in the technology space, as we operate our own association management system and website platform that are needed to meet unique needs of CDA and our subsidiaries, and by the components that use our AMS. We conducted a detailed audit of membership benefits at the national, California, and California component levels, and saw duplication in many areas. This duplication adds to the bottom line of what California members are paying without creating unique value. Through direct national billing, we see an opportunity for ADA to more directly link in the minds of members the dues they pay to the value they receive. I hope it goes without saying that this discussion was not brought forward without a significant amount of due diligence and is not at all a reflection on current leadership or direction of the ADA. Under Ray's leadership, the ADA's expressed focus on value and values remains important, as it will only strengthen their ability to showcase value in an optional, directly billed membership model. Our research indicates a third of California member dentists would opt to retain their national membership in this new structure. And we would support and encourage that. It is our intention to remain active and engaged in the tripartite governance structure, with representation aligned with the number of CDA members that retain ADA membership. Nearly all the leaders in our state have made it clear that they personally would want to retain their ADA membership. And we've discussed the fact that if only 1/3 of our dentist members retain their ADA membership, we would remain one of the largest ADA constituents in the nation, with approximately 8,000 ADA members. There are many models for effective federated or tripartite associations that have optional rather than mandatory membership structures. Additionally, we respect and value our relationships with ADA leadership and staff. With all of you, and would seek to continue collaborative engagement on topics of importance within the profession and on member benefits, with a focus on opportunities for unduplicated value creation. We've always sought to be a good partner within the tripartite structure. We've hosted numerous ADA annual meetings, offered financial support for significant initiatives across the nation, like MLR in Massachusetts, and supported our colleagues in other states when disaster struck. The way we all rally together in times of need is what makes this profession great, and this optional membership proposal changes nothing in that regard. Should you have any questions about the proposal, its intent, or the evaluation that led us there, I'll be happy to answer them. CDA's culture is one of openness, collaboration, and innovation that is grounded in member research and data. We feel strongly that introducing choice in this way will keep more dentists engaged in organized dentistry, which we believe is good for the profession. I know that if our president, Dr. John Blake, were here today, he would close by saying that we hope that as a group, we can navigate through these discussions in a way that keeps us focused on our service to members and the profession we love. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Ray, do you want to make any comments before we open it up to questions? That was the original format that we discussed.
No, thank you all very much. I mean, I'm just asking and questions the same as you all, how this is going to take place. Peter and I have had several discussions together as we move forward. There's a lot of questions that have to be answered. I'm anxious to hear what your questions are too as well. So thank you all very much. I just kind of will listen in and see what we have, and we'll discuss more in the future, I assume, on this, but I'm anxious to hear what your questions are.
If anybody has any questions, again, please use the raise hand and we'll just work through the queue. Eric?
Yeah, Peter, could you clarify? I think it was maybe said both ways, but was the CDA polling indicative that 1/3 of California dentists would join the ADA, or 1/3 of current CDA members would join the ADA?
1/3 of current CDA members, Eric. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Drew?
Hey, hello, everybody. Still trying to get my head around the whole concept. So I'm going into just more logistics, and it might be too early for this, Peter and Ray. How would this play out should it pass? Because do not ADA current bylaws require tripartite membership. So I'm just trying to figure out how that would play out. Would you make an exception for one state, or would you just say now it's optional everywhere? I'm just a little confused how that even would work in the system we currently have.
I think that's a question ultimately that Ray may want to respond to, but actually, Drew, the ADA bylaws don't require membership in the tripartite. They require that all members of a constituent be members of the ADA. Again, tripartite doesn't mean mandatory membership.
We're going to have to look at that specifically because our bylaws does talk about the component, constituent, and the national as a parallel tripartite process. We're interpreting it that it would be a challenge to the current tripartite structure, Drew. We're going to have to investigate that more, but right now we do see it as that your bylaws would not be in line directly with the American Dental Association and would jeopardize the tripartite. We're going to have to research that a little bit more depending upon how this avenue is taken, but right now there are several questions in the air quite a bit about that. But we kind of see, looking at the bylaws, initial legal interpretation would see that it would be in conflict with the ADA bylaws operation of the tripartite. So,
Molly?
Hi, Peter. So would the due structure be that members would be saving money because they're not paying ADA dues, or would you be increasing what they're paying at the state level?
Well, this proposal would allow them to make a choice. If they chose not to join the ADA, they would obviously not pay the ADA dues.
But are California dues going up, or would they be remaining, I mean, within reason, or are they remaining pretty much the same?
There is a recommendation to raise California dues this year. We haven't raised dues we've raised dues once in 20 years, and so we're going to propose to raise it this next year.
So I guess what I'm asking is, would the amount being raised be equivalent to the cost of ADA membership?
No, not even close.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? I don't see anybody in the queue. I just want to make a comment. Carmelo.
Good morning, everyone. Peter, just a quick question. Is this, does this extend down to the components? In other words, could a California dentist join a component district without joining the CDA? Just out of curiosity, if that's been discussed at all.
That's a great question, Carmelo. The proposal going forward basically would continue to marry membership in CDA and the components. We believe there's a very strong case for doing that. However, we fully expect that to be part of the discussion in the months to come.
Thank you.
Sure.
Bracken?
Yeah, actually, it was very similar to Carmelo's question. And it was just simply, Peter, do you believe that your component societies have the same ability and right, I guess, for lack of a better term, to make membership in their organization not predicated on membership in the CDA? And sort of how do you see that happening? And in your research of how these entities have worked in other organizations, do you see an example where everyone becomes voluntary to one another, or are there examples where the state requires membership in the local or vice versa in order to, so it's sort of a partial voluntary tripartite?
Sure. Thanks, Bracken. Our analysis, the analysis that I mentioned in my remarks of who provides what to members, indicates that there is a very nice complementarity between what our components offer and what we offer our members, and that the combination of those offerings represents a very strong value proposition. So that is the most important reason that we're proposing that the two remain connected. But it's also the case that, as with most states in the ADA, we provide our AMS to our components at no cost. And that's very valuable to all of them. So that would be another reason. But the most important reason, I think, is the complementarity of the member program offerings.
Drew?
Just a quick question, Peter. When you were talking, you had mentioned, this first time I've heard anybody describe it this way, so I just wanted to get more thought on that, is the American Medical Association as a success story. I've always heard just the opposite about AMA, is it being not a success and low market share and divided. So just curious where that comment came from.
Well, it's coming from our conversations with Sequence, the consulting firm that is currently consulting with the ADA. AMA is a client of theirs, and they consider the AMA a success. But also, in truth, if you think about it, it depends on how you define the success of an organization. The AMA continues to be a very impactful organization at the national level, and in Washington in particular. They're not really a membership organization any longer, with a member market share below 25%, I think. But they don't hold themselves out particularly as that. They simply assert that they are the voice of American medicine, and they just do it. And they certainly, if you talk to people in Washington, the American Medical Association is considered to be a significant voice for medicine and in healthcare discussion. So again, it depends on how you define success.
Yeah, I just wonder how many physicians feel they speak for them. Just a comment.
I think relatively few do. But again, it depends. But as an organization that has impact, they would consider themselves successful.
Doug?
Yeah, thanks, Peter, for joining us and giving us this briefing. As the wheels turn for me, the thing that goes through my mind, and I think we can all relate to this, is our frustration when we're trying to talk to a non-member who has no problem reaping the benefits of membership, because there are just some things that can't be turned on and off, the most obvious being governmental affairs. I mean, if we work hard, we get a bill passed, they benefit from it, whether they're a member or not, just by being a dentist. I'm sure around the CDA board table, that's had to have been discussed. I mean, if 2/3 of CDA members quit helping fund the ADA, but continue to receive benefits from the ADA, especially, what happens in Washington, how do you justify that? I'm sure that's been discussed.
It has been discussed, Doug. And the discussion basically runs along the lines that we assume that only about 1/3 of our members see benefit to them in what the ADA does. I mean, I couldn't be more plain spoken about it.
Michelle?
Good morning, everyone. Hi, Peter.
Michelle?
A couple, hi, and I think you just answered, I had a two-part question. One is confirming what you said about 1/3 of members remaining ADA members choosing that option. That's of your current membership. And really, as one of your neighboring states, I made a joke yesterday, I could throw a rock and hit California probably. Portability of membership. You know, we share members crossing our borders fairly regularly. And I'm a bit concerned about the portability of membership if they come over to Nevada from California and it's not an optional membership, it's mandatory. Can you speak to that, please?
Ooh, that's a great question. And to be honest with you, we had not been thinking about that, probably because that sort of phenomenon, I think, is not significant. Except I'm sure it is significant for Nevada, where you've got situations like South Lake Tahoe and North Shore Tahoe. Anyway, I would guess that members would just have to decide. Where, again, as they generally do, what's in it for them? Where's the value? And is it worth it to be a Nevada member, even if that means I have to pay ADA dues as well? I just think it'll be a member by member decision, Michelle. There's no magic to it.
Yeah. Thanks, Peter.
Sure.
Tom?
Thanks. Hi, Peter. This is kind of a two-part question as well. I guess the question is if ADA membership is optional, is it your expectation that the ADA would still enforce that in order to be a member of the ADA from California, you would also have to be a member of CDA, even if it was only that third? I know we have direct membership, but it's a very limited scope at this point, and that is a requirement. But assuming that is not a requirement and that ADA begins to offer direct membership there, I guess the question is, doesn't that spill over to all of our other states too? If ADA is allowing direct membership in California, do we not have pressure in our states to have that direct membership available to them as well?
That's a great question, Tom. In fact, Ray and I had a conversation about that in one of our earlier conversations. And what I said to him is what I'll say to you first, and that is that will be up to ADA. I mean, might this trigger ADA to decide that they want to offer direct membership in California? It might. Ray reminded me that they already offer direct membership in the 4th District, presumably to the members of the military. And based on conversations I've listened to, I've been assuming that at least an option on the table for ADA is direct membership to DSO dentists, who, as at least in California, DSO dentists, many of them in the large DSOs like Pacific Dental Services, get most of what they need in terms of practice support from their DSO. So they don't need it from us. Granted, they get plenty of other things from us, but not really things that necessarily hit their pocketbook. So we can imagine that DSO dentists might have an interest in an ADA membership distinct from California or their component. Likewise, I mean, yes, if ADA decided to offer direct membership, they could offer it across the country, and that could impact everybody.
Carmelo?
Thanks. Hi, Peter, again. So a little bit on what you just said, but my question was revolving around, you had indicated that you had done some research to determine that about 1/3 of CDA members would elect to remain members of the ADA. Was there a similar analysis done on CDA members that would elect to remain members of the ADA and not the CDA? And so, in other words, how many would elect to simply just have direct membership with the ADA and not the CDA or the components? Any sort of similar analysis or data?
We did not ask the question that way, Carmela. What we did, we asked the question basically in terms of, if you had a choice, which of these organizations would you join? And the ADA got about a third, CDA got about 2/3, components got about 60%.
So independently, so a member of the ADA and CDA, or was the question asked as a member of the ADA, a member of CDA? And so, in other words, I'm just thinking about a member dentist or a dentist in California or any other state for that matter, who may elect to join just the ADA. And maybe this is more of a commentary. That would really concern me, particularly for many of the smaller states who, as you indicated, the resources and the value proposition that might be delivered, they may exclusively receive that from the ADA, and to some extent from the smaller states. I don't mean to sort of be critical of the smaller states, but my point is that the larger states might be able to sort of deliver the value that you've sort of articulated. Smaller states who deliver a value, but also depend on the ADA to add and complement that value proposition, may be hurt with a direct membership model where an individual could join the ADA without having to join the constituent state. And maybe that's more of a commentary than a question, but thanks, Peter, appreciate it.
And it's a great commentary, and we certainly have been mindful of those realities. What that suggests to me, anyway, and I think to our leadership, is that the ADA and collectively we may want to respond to these phenomena, on a state-by-state basis. The solution may need to be tailored on a state-by-state basis because, again, the nature of the value proposition provided to members in a given state may vary dramatically from another state.
Kevin?
Hi, Peter. Thanks for doing the presentation for the group. I was just wondering if California has any data or if it's done any forecasts on how many new members it might attract with this change.
Great question. The short answer is no, we haven't. But one of our concerns is how many members we might lose if we don't pay attention to this. And that number obviously looks to be big.
Steve?
So I want to echo what Carmelo said. I'm from Kentucky. We're one of the small states. This would probably be a death knell for a state like Kentucky and smaller states. And the idea that this is potentially going to be forced on us is shocking. And I mean that exactly the way I said it, because I understand you say we need to consider this state by state, but I fully expect in my late this year and early next year membership returns to receive returns with items marked out like they're arbitrary now when the news of this gets out. And we can't do business that way in a small state. We offer a lot, but in Kentucky, I have 4 staff members. In West Virginia, they have 2 staff members. In the smaller states, we can't provide all the services that the ADA has, and we depend on them on a daily basis. So there may be a few large states that can make this happen as a reality, but thinking that this is something that's going to spread throughout the entire membership, it's not a feasible model. We could not continue under a model such as this in a state like Kentucky. I wish you the best in California. But as the CDA discussed the fact that the ADA bylaws also allow any group of 100 member dentists to apply to be a constituent society, it only states that there can be one constituent per state. It does not state that constituent has to be the CDA. What if your 100 member group from the third of your dentists you think are going to retain membership decide to apply to be a new constituent to the ADA? I think you're going to place yourself in an interesting situation. The tripartite is the tripartite, and that is what's always given us the strength we have. And I'm speaking as a dentist. I'm a practicing dentist at least for another month. and then I'll be full-time. But, you know, I do think there's a lot of forethought to it. I understand the decision-making, and I'm sure this wasn't a rash decision. You all have obviously done your research. But, you know, for so much of the membership of the ADA, I see this being a real challenge to us on a daily basis, however this plays out. Because what this is going to end up being for me in a smaller state like Kentucky is a thorn I have to deal with, because I can't imagine the number of phone calls and things that I'm going to have to deal with secondary to this. So, you know, I realize that that didn't fit into any of your discussions or anything that you had in California, but please understand that this change obviously affects everybody, because it's something we're all going to have to deal with on a daily basis. And you're going to make our life very interesting. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. You seem very confident that this is going to pass in your state. And I just wonder if you all are prepared for any potential consequences, like maybe a new constituent society being applied for.
Well, thanks for the comments, Steve. First of all, welcome to ASCDE. Not all of our meetings are like this. I want to tell you that there is a lot of respect among our leadership for the circumstances you just described. However, as you may or may not know, California has the largest member market share of any of the large states. And we believe that the reason for that is because we listen to our members. And we listen to our members through that survey research, first and foremost. And our members are telling us that they want a choice in this regard. And if we don't give it to them, we risk very serious consequences ourselves. And again, I want to stress that I absolutely think, and our membership believes, that the tripartite should approach these issues on a state-by-state basis. In Kentucky, as you describe it, it obviously would make sense to retain a requirement for ADA membership, because the ADA is such an important functional partner of yours and such an important provider of value, presumably, to your members. And so I think that it would be very, very good idea to have flexibility so that some states can require it and California cannot. You know, all we're talking about is our situation. We're the first to say that we have a lot of characteristics that make us unique. You know, we've got, what, 5 components that are larger than 27 states, for example. So, you know, it is a somewhat of a different world here. We are aware of that. And yet, you know, we've got an indication from our members that we.
Before we move on, the list just keeps growing. There are 5 people in the queue. I want to pause. Everybody that's in the queue will hopefully get to your questions quickly. We want to go through those. But I want to pause our questions, and I want to give Ray an opportunity to make some additional comments before we, excuse me, run out of time and move on. So, Eric, you're the last one in the queue. I'll stop it. When I get to you, we'll stop, and then Ray will give you an opportunity. And again, before I continue on, Steve, again, yeah, like Peter said, welcome to ASCD. We look forward to hopefully seeing you next month in Chicago, and it's a great group and be a great resource for you. So we look forward to welcoming you fully and helping you out. So, Kathleen.
Hi, thank you, Peter, for your presentation. I think most people on this call know that, you know, I had kicked around this can a little bit just as a point of, you know, discussion. And 6 weeks ago, Dr. Comilla was kind enough to come to our annual meeting in Connecticut. And we had an informal discussion with our leadership and happened to trip over this topic. And I just wanted to clarify Peter's statement, which is that I had no idea California was doing this, Ray. It was just kind of one of those moments where I just voiced what we were thinking out loud, just kind of kicking that can again, and was very surprised when I learned more about what was happening in California. So just serendipity, I guess. And I also just wanted to raise another point before I have my question, which is that as opposed to what Steve was talking about in Kentucky, I actually have members right now that will send in their membership routinely every year and will delete the ADA portion, and we have to go back and tell them and remind them that they need to include that in order for us to process their membership. So and some of them are, you know, the older generation, and some of them are very new and don't understand that they have to pay for all of it, and we have to explain it to them. So I think there are some members that are questioning on their own validity, not just at a organized level within the state about, as an individual member, why am I doing this? My question to Peter right now, though, is that assuming that this moves forward and you do see some of the trends that you believe are going to happen in your membership and people choose to not join at the national level, how will that impact CDA's ability to be a district moving forward, and also what your role will be moving forward at the national level in terms of like the House of Delegates and some of those other issues?
Thanks, Kathleen. Well, as I mentioned in my remarks, we assume that at least a third of our members will opt to be ADA members. Likely it'll be more, but if a third of our current members opt into ADA, that would give us 8,000 ADA members. That would make us, I think, the second largest district after New York. So we would assume that we would remain a single state district, a pretty darn large one at that, and engage in the tripartite fully as we do now.
Linda?
Hi, Peter, thanks for your presentation. So I'm not sure if my question is really for you, but it may be for Ray. I'm curious if there's been any forecasting on if California does move forward with this, if there's been any forecasting down the road of other states that may follow suit, and just that overarching impact that we may be looking at as the tripartite in 3, 5, 10 years down the road. Thank you.
Would you like me to comment on that, Greg?
I'll start, but we have not done any such forecasting because our sole focus is on California.
On the ADA side, we've done multiple business models, but I'll be truthful with you. I never ever figured into, since we are a professional organization representing the best interest of the dentist, I never looked at a business model that would actually disassemble or break or challenge the tripartite. So does that mean in the last 2 weeks we've looked at some different things? Yes, since this has come up, took me by surprise, just like anything else. But we're looking at what our options are right now, but I will have some closing comments that can clarify some of the things. But at this point right now, Linda, no, we haven't really forecasted that, because as a professional organization, I believe that the tripartite was where the members would want to stay and where they want to be in order for that the best representation to be a profession. So I can comment more that hopefully in a few weeks at our membership conference, if we see where this goes as we continue to move forward. So this is learning for everybody right here. This is learning for all of us.
Thank you, Ray.
Karen?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Peter. I just wanted to check in with you regarding the timing. Why does your board feel that at the California Dental Association 2023 House of Delegates, this is now the time to bring it forward? It feels like there's so much change going on. The trends that you have noticed and commented on have not emerged suddenly, and that there is, potentially other solutions that would impact the perceptions of current CDA members about the value of tripartite membership, specifically the ADA. So I guess the question is, what made 2023 the year to make this happen?
Great question, Karen. The principal factors in the timing have to do with the strategic planning exercise that started in early 2022 and the availability of the survey research for 2021, which basically told us that our members wanted this choice in large numbers. That was the compelling factor. You're right, everything else we probably could have learned sooner, but the survey research caused us to do a very thorough analysis of member-related programming at the national, state, and component levels. And we put that together with the survey research, and that created a compelling reason for our board to act now.
Thank you. If I could have just one quick follow-up then. From the standpoint of, every survey is a point in time. Clearly you have great research that shows what your members are thinking now. My follow-up comment was just that I feel that sometimes you have to let the opportunity for change in a better way. If your members had a better opinion of the ADA or more knowledge about the ADA, or if our model changed so that it was less expensive, next year's survey might be different. So that's just my follow-up comment on that.
Well, since you raised that, we share that perspective. And so we had our survey research firm go back into the field this year on this question. And the number of members who are committed to membership in the ADA dropped.
Thanks for the follow-up.
Thank you.
Bracken?
Thanks, Peter. And actually, you partially answered the question right before me with Karen, and I want to just follow up on that a little bit. This choice that your data show your members want, how much of that choice is driven by the price and the cost of maybe tripartite dues globally, cost maybe of ADA dues, or is it something else broader like values, don't agree with ADA? Like what if you were to just sort of guess, what percentage of this sort of desire for choice do you believe is driven by price? And if price were to come down, maybe across the tripartite, could that sort of be another way to address this concern that your members feel?
That's a great question, Bracken. I don't have precise data for you. What I can tell you is that based on the way the question was asked, I think that it has more to do with perceived value than with price specifically, because at least in California, I suspect this is true in all the other states, our members get a bill for all 3 levels of dues. And I think it's probably and some of our members don't even see that bill. Their office staff get it and pay it. Those that do get that bill probably don't focus on, how much they're paying for ADA, how much for CDA, and how much for components. So in answering a question about ADA versus CDA versus components, I think, and in conversation with our research firm, I think the belief is that it's a proxy for how much do you value each of those entities in your professional life.
Eric?
All right, save the best for last. Peter, I hopefully have a brief question, but I just want to preface it with this is out of personal intrigue. It's not in an effort of gerrymandering or anything of that nature. But does California have a cutoff date for its House as far as delegates and alternates go? And then if so, what is that date?
Great technical question, Eric. We do have a cutoff date. I have no clue what it is.
Okay. It's not today, or it's not already set,
No,
already passed.
no, I suspect that and I suspect there are folks out there who are working on a campaign of one sort or another for our House of Delegates. And, I think they have plenty of time to be busy.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Great. Thank you all for those questions. Ray, I'll give you an opportunity. Again, if you have anything you want to share, you should have permission.
Thank
to
you all.
share.
This is incredible discussion. This is great questions. Peter and I have had several conversations on this. I do want to clarify a few things. First of all, it is true the ADA has direct membership, and we have no intention of doing direct membership. We believe that the tripartite is the most important thing. We represent the professions, and I see no way as a professional. I mean, my ED is on this call as well, and that individual represents me as a dentist. That I don't see how the advocacy side is going to work if we start to break the tripartite. So direct billing only occurs in the military area. I want to clear that, yes, I said that we have the ability to direct bill, but the question is when Peter and I originally had talked, I said, well, when would this take effect? He said, well, January 1st of 2025. He said, we know you have to get direct billing into place. I said, well, we do have direct billing options right now. You know that. And so I was just clarifying a point. There is no intentions to direct bill members in any type of way. And I know that there's been some discussions with DSOs, but the latest research does not necessarily say that the DSO is the best impact right now. We have large group practices, and we're trying to carry a message of value in different things. Secondly is the survey question that was asked is a very unique question because specifically it said most important if you had to pick. Between the three, between the ADA, the CDA, and their component, and obviously the CDA had the highest return. With all due respect, I think that would be asking me which of my three children I would pick as the most important. I think that we all have a critical aspect on how we have to do this. So I think the tripartite is still one of the best ways to go. The third thing is the tripartite challenge on the legal side. It would be in direct conflict with the bylaws. So I'm not sure exactly how that would occur because if we did have members from California, and my question is what if a member wants to join the ADA but not the CDA, and we don't actually have this worked out at this time? Right now, you can join the CDA and have the ADA as an optional membership, but we would be direct billing, so we would have to see how many members actually join in order to determine what type of impact that would be on the ADA, the tripartite, and how we would do representation. So there's a lot of questions that would have to be answered on that as well. The next thing is, we are working on the AMS, the CMS, the change, the Salesforce Fontiva. We think that's going to be a very valuable proposition for each of us that we are doing we're actually carrying all the resources to help each and every one of you convert that over, which means we're leading to an efficient ADA. I want to say, I do not blame California and anybody for making this decision because am I upset if you ask me this question? Well, it is upsetting to me because it means that we at the ADA missed the mark. And I cannot explain what happened the last many years. That is not my position. I can say that I've been here for 16 months and we're making a very efficient ADA. We're changing things dramatically. You're going to see rollouts of things that you've never seen before that's going to help to support the tripartite and carry the message of what the ADA does. We're looking at actually a dues decrease, believe it or not. We're making so efficient, and this was independent of this. It had nothing to do with California because you all know that I've been discussing these plans over the next 5 years to make a major dues change for the future because we know that the value proposition is critical to the future members, the alphas, the X's, the Z's, the millennials, et cetera, like that. The financial impact could be challenging. Obviously, that would be, California, with all due respect, they do provide a 14-15% of our membership dues revenue. Now for overall dues, it's less than 8 to 7%. They do provide a large amount, and it would be a direct impact. I'm estimating, looking at the survey numbers, that they had in the neighborhood of $7 to $8 million. Well, that'll be difficult because our plans were to become more dues structured, more dues efficient, and that would be an impact during the following years. So we're going to have to work out that exactly of how it would affect the business model of the future, delivering the value and all the new services and products that we're moving towards to improve the membership. So those things still yet to be doing. You know, I'm sure California's been working on this for quite some time. We've been working on it for 2.5 weeks. So it's been a little bit daunting of a task to try to refigure what our business model is going to be to address this as it moves forward. You know, this is all very important conversations, and this is the same thing that happened when ACD, you know, said, you know, Ray, what do you think about that? Well, it makes me upset, not at you, but at the ADA. That means that we missed the mark. I'm working hard to make a lot of changes here. We're making so many changes that we're going to be rolling out over the next year that I'm very excited to share with you all at the July conference to bolster that, to change and move this membership direction in a different way. I think we can actually achieve that. But if I were to say, you know, that you've been heard. California is an important part. Matter of fact, they've received $568,000 in small grants. I mean, so we support California. And matter of fact, many of our membership services and phone calls and things that we field, more than half of them are California. So we do believe that we support California in some great ways in how they reach out. We have several members that participate with many of our programs. Again, this is a new ventured area. I understand that. And it depends upon, and I don't blame them for making it try to, you know, to moving down this type of path. I would like for, it would have been nice to have a little bit of time to show you what we're going to be changing to, but I know that they have to make changes as they see fit for the best interest of them. I would have to close and say that this is a professional organization, and Linda asked me a question earlier if I figured this in. When I was preparing over the last year for the 5-year business plan, which I presented to the Board of Trustees last February, and basically I was talking, I think, nonstop for almost 5.5 hours, looking at every aspect and all the major changes that we're going to do at the ADA and all the different challenges that I had seen in the environment. I'll be truthful with you, this is one that I did not foresee coming, but now it's here. So we're actually recalculating and looking at different business models that we have to do. I understand that we are a new tenture and it is change is inevitable, and that's exactly what we're doing at the ADA. So this is, again, this is something for us all to find out and figure. There's a lot of questions that we still have to ask as we go down this. Peter and I do talk regularly. We have a very cordial conversations about how we're trying to figure this out if this were to go. I want you all to know that I still strongly believe in the tripartite. There's no question, not just as the executive director of the American Dental Association, but as a professional, as a member. You all are my EDs. You all represent the groups and the interest of the members that are my colleagues that we work with. And as we move forward, I'm concerned that we would be moving towards the AMA model. The AMA model is a successful business medical association, but I think it's lost a lot of its professionalism. And even the medical directors over there would say the same thing as many, many practitioners as well. So I'm hoping we're able to work through this. And I understand California has to make a decision what they think is the best in their interest. But I hope that you would be patient, at least see what the ADA has to offer over the next several years. And thank you all. And at the July conference, you're going to hear a whole lot of things that we're going to be introducing that we're working out right now that was actually indifferent of the California. We've been working on this for quite some time, even before this came out. So thank you all very much. And I will certainly answer any questions you have for me as well. Thank you.
If you have any questions for Ray, again, raise your hand, join the queue. Lynn's your question for Ray?
Actually, it's for Peter. I have one more question. Peter, was your ADA trustee and your delegates part of this planning process from the beginning? Were they part of this discussion, and did they have input into the resolution?
Yeah, our ADA trustees, this process spanned 2 different trustees, were both basically included in these discussions. They did not have a vote because they don't have a vote on our board, however.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Linda?
Yeah, right. So I'm curious to hear a little bit, and I don't know if it's possible to recap it today. This may be a July agenda item, just the findings from Sequence and on the membership models, and if anything like this may have come up, or any findings to date that may impact CDA and their decision, you know, what their House may be faced or will likely be discussing in November. I'm just curious because we haven't really heard much about Sequence and the findings. Thank you.
They made their initial report, but they have not given any delivered. that's hopefully happened by the July conference. I was hoping April would be on here. Do I see April? There she is. April, would you
She is.
comment on that, please? Thank you.
Sure. In regards to sequence, some of you may know we've been working with a task force on the new dues model, which sequence is an input into that new dues model. So they're at the point now where they've surveyed both dentists and DSO large group practice owners. We have that research back. So the stage that we're in now is shaping two value propositions. One value proposition for DSO large group practice dentists and one for those that own the practices. And the goal is to come out of this research with those two distinct value propositions along with a recommendation on a dues model. So you should see more of that at the conference in July.
Thank you. I have a quick follow-up question then, and this might be a little bit more sensitive. So with the data that is being collected through that research with the ADA, how, and I don't mean this with any disrespect whatsoever, how is that going to be shared with California, or is there an inherent now conflict of interest based on what is the initiatives in California with what's being worked on with the ADA? I'm just curious from a conflict of interest standpoint now.
And Ray, I don't know if you want to chime in on that, but to date, California has access to all of that membership data. They have a representative on the Council on Membership. They've been a part of those discussions in the work group. So we have not withheld any information to date from California on that particular work.
Thank you, April.
Steve?
Thanks, Greg, for setting this up, and to Peter and Ray for discussing this issue. My question actually, I guess, is for Peter, and you may have covered this and I missed it, but I have not read the resolution and don't have access to your bylaws. To effectuate this change, would it be a bylaws change and a change in the California Dental Association bylaws? And if so, I'm assuming that would take a supermajority vote. We're just trying to assess the likelihood of passage at the CDA House of Delegates.
David, you're correct on both points. Bylaws change, supermajority requirement.
Thank you.
Sure.
I don't see anybody else in the queue. Are there any other questions for Ray? Seeing none. Peter, Ray, thank you for your time and your presentations and the information. I'm sure this is not the last of these discussions that we'll have, and we'll just see where it goes. I ask that you keep us all informed of what's happening, so we know, and we'll just keep moving forward. And again, appreciate the time. So
thanks, Greg, and all of you guys should feel free to reach out to me anytime with any questions. Appreciate the opportunity this morning.
Okay.
So Greg, are we all staying on and they're just leaving?
I was just gonna, if.
Would you like me to sign off as well, Greg, or
Yes,
am I?
please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Thank you all.
So we'll give them a minute to clear. Look through real quick. All right. I am going to stop recording.